now move over to listen to Cameron from MMI, Method Media Intelligence. This is a pre-recording. If you have any questions that the panelists here can at least try to answer around anything that you've heard this morning, please don't be shy. Please put the questions in. But we'll now move to listen to Cameron around how advertisers are taking action towards supply path optimization, SPO. Thank you.
Good morning, and thank you very much for having me. My name is Cameron Thorn, and I'm the Global Head of Insights and Analytics for Method Media Intelligence. We partnered with the AANA earlier this year to release a report on the programmatic supply chain. The IAB has been kind enough to welcome us here today to act as a bit of a follow-up so we can talk about what sort of actions brands have and are taking towards supply path optimization. Now, before we really get stuck in, we need to talk about what preambles there are to success. A lot of the AANA report focused on issues of process and issues of access. So these are really vital to fully understand before your analysis can get underway. So to begin with, structuring your setup. You're always going to have this trade-off between convenience and transparency. Take, for instance, the issue of bundles. Bundles can be a great way to be purchasing a lot of impressions at a seemingly discounted cost, but you're going to come up to this barrier of a lack of transparency. I mean, think about it like purchasing a bushel of apples. It may look like a great bushel of apples, but you really have no idea what the apples underneath the surface there are like. Bundles are somewhat similar to this because you're not going to get log level information on each impression within that bundle. That's really going to be a barrier to being able to do the type of analysis that lends itself to supply path optimization. Next, thinking about structuring your path. So thinking about how the setup is done so that the data will flow in a way that is conducive to analysis. And what we're thinking about here, what we've seen in the AANA study and what we've seen with other brands is if they're using a trading desk and they happen to have a bunch of different DSPs all under the one site ID of that trading desk, this makes it so that when you're doing analysis, you can't tell whether DSP A was performing any better or any worse than DSP B. So structuring your setup in a way that you think about how the data is going to look when doing analysis and whether or not that's going to make it possible to really be doing SPO. So requesting your data. So unfortunately, it's not an out-of-the-box solution with most ad servers and DSPs to be getting log level information. Fortunately, though, it's really not that involved of a process. You simply need to reach out to your account manager with a list of fields and maybe have a bucket location set up for the data to be transferred to. Now, the DSPs and the ad servers will typically only hold on to this data for a few weeks, and then it's gone forever. If you store it now, and you can't maybe work on it for a number of months, at least you have it there, and when you get around to working on it, you'll have several months worth of data to analyze rather than just a few weeks worth that the DSP and ad server will be holding on to. It's not a huge cost to be storing this. I think, in cold storage, we're talking about maybe a few $100s a month. And when compared against the savings potential of doing SPO analysis, that doesn't really seem like a lot. So while it is a straightforward process, that's not to say that you'll never experience any pushback. You will see from time to time DSPs or ad servers shy away from handing over this data, might say something about privacy reasons. It's really up to the media buyer to make it clear to them that you only want to be working with vendors who are transparent and are willing to provide log level information. And in most cases, we've seen that once that's made clear, data is then made available. So now that you've got your setup structured and you've got your data access, what sort of analysis can you do? Well, the first we'd suggest is just a comparison between the logs. So running a count at the placement level for your DSP versus a count at the placement level in your ad server data. there will often be a discrepancy of about 10 to 15%. This can be caused by anything from IVT to non-renders, and it's really vital in this process to understand what your billable event is. It's a bit more pertinent if you're using the same company for both ad server and DSP to understand if you're getting charged for auctions won or ads served. So let's say you see 10 million impressions for campaign X and only 9 million impressions in the ad server. Well, that requires you to kick off conversation with your account manager and make sure that you're only being charged for 9 million impressions if you're being billed on ad served. So exchange level analysis. Exchange level analysis is a great place to start. You'll have plenty of different exchanges going into your placements and campaigns. An exchange, just to level set, is the place where the auction actually takes place, and we'll see invalid traffic rates ranging from anywhere from next to nothing to upwards of 10%. So it's a place in the DSP where you can be selecting and deselecting. So doing this initial analysis to see if you can be redirecting your spend away from exchanges that are experiencing significantly higher invalid traffic rates can really help lower your overall invalid traffic rates. We've seen just that in action, just a month comparison of all the different exchanges used on a single DSP, and by reallocating from the higher IVT experiencing exchanges to the lower ones, month over month, we saw a reduction of overall IVT of greater than 30%. So that, about 1/3 of media spend is now towards working media that actually has the potential to be in front of humans. And domain and seller analysis. This is another, really straightforward place that, you can update an inclusion list and essentially only be going to domains that have an IVT threshold that you're comfortable with. So just to level set, because I know seller can mean a lot of different things. In this context, we're talking about it as basically an SSP. A seller ID can have one or multiple domains going into it. So it's really important that you look at both domain and seller level breakdowns here. Again, we've seen this in action. There was an instance I can recall where I think more than half of all IVT was coming from just a small handful of domains. So it's then, conversation for the advertiser to see if there's anywhere else where they might be able to reach it, to be reaching a similar type of reach without having to go with these domains that are having such a drastic impact on their overall invalid traffic rates. So this by no means has been an exhaustive list. We really wanted to touch upon what some initial steps are that you could do in the next quarter. These aren't huge tasks, but they can have a pretty significant impact on the amount of wasted spend you see in the programmatic supply chain. So just to conclude, transparency is key. You're never going to be getting any sort of insights unless you're operating in transparent environments and you're getting data access, of course. It's a little bit of legwork to get set up, but once you have it forever. And finally here, leaning in, this graphic on the right-hand side is something we put together in the AANA report. I think a lot of times stakeholders can think that this is a problem that doesn't necessarily affect them too much because they're working with the best agency or the best DSP or the best SSP. And, our point of view is that to really impact change here, we all need to be leaning in. We need to be making it a priority. We need to be saying to all of the partners that we work with that, operating in a transparent way, getting regular data access, and consistently doing supply path optimization on a recurring basis is a priority and needs to be adhered to by everybody. That's it. Thank you very much for your time. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out. Have a great day.
Very good. Yeah, the final commentary there from Cameron, I can
Good morning.
Fully align with. I really can. You're going to, as we mentioned, there's going to be a lot of pan-industry initiatives in this space here in Australia as well as globally. So do